All right, we are here with two of my favorites, both in-points experts and industry experts. The theme today is new administration, same pandemic, new Aeroplan, same MileagePlus. So we will welcome Jayce Loh of PointsNerd in Canada and
Hello.
Matthew Klint of Live and Let's Fly in Southern California. We've got ultra mega Star Alliance expertise. We've got person who's worked in Star Alliance, who's a person who's worked in WestJet rewards, and now recently wrote about how awful it's become. And even one of them worked for a U.S. presidential administration previously. So we've got a wide range of stuff. And I was going to go straight to politics, but the news from Aeroplan was so good today, it seems, that I think we should start there. Jayce, tell us what's big about Aeroplan this week for people that haven't paid attention this year, and what's the really good news?
Well, yeah, so Airplan just launched their program as of yesterday, and so we've all been kind of exploring the different things that are on offer right now with Aeroplan, and what we've found is that they're doing both a geographical and distance-based chart. So depending on what region you're going to, within that region there are mileage banks and different pricing based on the distance flown. Now, we kind of always thought that when the program was being launched, there was going to be some pretty significant devaluations, especially for things like North America to Europe. But what we found is that because it's dynamic pricing, we're seeing a lot of cheaper prices than what we had expected, quite significantly cheaper. For me, for example, typically we were paying, I think it was 75,000 Aeroplan miles one way to Asia from North America. And right now, I saw one way for about 46,000 from Calgary to Narita. So it's because of we're not 100% sure yet, but there's quite a few nuances with the new program. So there's a standard price, which is based on the chart, but they've always said that that's kind of the about 90% of the time you'll see your prices within chart, but they've reserved the ability to go lower or higher. And what we've seen recently is that all prices seem to be lower for the most part for all the redemptions that people are seeing right now. There are a few weird exceptions, like Vancouver to Sydney is pricing out. One of the flights is pricing out 605,000 miles for business class, which I think is a big technical glitch on that particular route. But for the most part, we're seeing very good value in Aeroplan right now, and it's very exciting. We'll see whether or not that lasts. I think a lot of it might be because of the depressed flight prices because of the pandemic, but we've been pleasantly surprised so far today and yesterday.
Oh, fantastic. And Matthew, you posted your final masterpiece, Aeroplan redemption. I don't like to dwell too much on things people can't replicate, but let's give you a moment to say what you achieved with this one and what you hope to achieve in the new program.
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of the old Aeroplan program was that you had an MPM, a maximum permitted mileage, right? And Aeroplan had its own MPM, which in some cases was more generous, in some cases less generous than sort of the IATA published MPM that you could look up in Expert Flyer. There was sort of a tool in which you could look it up using some coding. And anyway, it was my goal, because I write a blog about premium travel, because I love to fly new products, I wanted to squeeze as much as I could into a single award. So what I did was, as I usually do, I start with one flight. I wanted to review ANA's new 777-300ER business class product called The Room, right? It's huge, right? It looks lovely. I love ANA. I've never flown ANA business, just first. So I found space from Frankfurt to Tokyo Haneda on that, and then I wanted to build an award around that. And I knew sort of that from the US, you got the most bang for your buck, the highest MPM if you were traveling to South Asia. So I played around with different routings, and I found, actually it took hours and hours of trial and error, but I finally found from Orlando to Jakarta I could travel about 18,000 miles. And so, I picked out another product I wanted to review, Egypt Air 787-9, and then I built this trip around it. And so it ended up being Orlando to Washington Dulles, Washington Dulles, Cairo, Cairo to Frankfurt, Frankfurt to Tokyo Haneda, and then down to Jakarta. And I booked that all on a single award over the phone, 77,500 miles, business class, and about $100 in taxes. So that was my final masterpiece. And what I did, because look, this is more than a half year away, almost a year away. And so I scheduled in like mini stopovers, as we call them, long layovers of up to 23 hours between each flight. And so hopefully when the schedules change, we know they're going to change, I won't sort of lose or forfeit the trip. And I'm hopeful that, late next summer when this trip occurs, that I'll be able to travel actually. Even if I can't leave the airports, I'll still be able to take the flights. So we'll see.
You've got some fans there, and actually we've had a little bit of feedback. If either of you have headphones nearby that you can try plugging in, I'm trying to see which one of us is causing it. Of course, it never appears in testing, but Gil reported it, and I heard it as well. So
I can try. Let's see.
Okay. And
sorry, I don't have it here with me.
Okay, we'll see if that takes care of it with one off, and I can grab one. I can grab one nearby too, but that's always the thing. So that was a masterpiece, and I shared the links. And Matthew, so what the Air North not being destroyed has been one of the or was it Canadian North now is one of my hopes. So has anybody tested that to see if those routes heading way north that is as advertised, it's online and working well still?
I've heard rumors that there was a delay in that, but I'm not 100% sure. I haven't checked on it.
Okay. We will be waiting. It sounds like any of us wanting to travel that way are going to be waiting a long time anyway. So I don't think any of those communities have opened up. Mm-hmm.
One thing that I found that was disappointing, right? I mean, there's sweet spots on the new award chart. And Jayce, we were talking about more Air Canada awards directly. And like for me on the West Coast, it's all about Star Alliance. And before, like I go to Germany. I try to go several times a year, take my family twice a year. And before it was really easy. It was 55,000 in business or 30,000 in economy class. And what I noticed today is, you can take the Lufthansa flight now direct. There's no more fuel surcharge, which is great. It's 40,000 in economy, 70,000 in business. But, and this is the very disappointing thing, like if I connect, like let's say I want to fly United and I do, Southern California up to San Francisco and then over to Frankfurt, right? That now it goes over the 6,000 miles. And so coach is 55,000 miles one way. Business is now 85,000 one way. And so actually for people on the West Coast, it's a huge devaluation, I'd say, just in terms of those partner award redemptions to Europe. And so I think going forward, my big strategy in the program is sort of reverse Goldilocks, right? Instead of sort of something in between, something just right. To me, Aeroplan appears valuable for some, say, expensive short haul redemptions or those very long haul redemptions. Because I haven't tried it yet, but they say that you can sort of be very creative as long as you don't backtrack and piecing together routings. And I don't know if you've tried any custom routings yet, but
No.
It reaches a point where, if you go over 11,000 or you go over 16,000 in some cases, then you're in a sense unlimited. And so I'm curious.
Yeah, so I was at the Air Canada Aeroplan launch for bloggers that they did about 3 months ago and taught us about the program. What we pieced together is that there is an MPM. It's not something you can look up or anything like that. But from what I understand, what was told to us is that as long as your origin and destination, if your distance flown isn't more than 200% of that total, and you don't have any circuitous routings, backtracking, for example, then you should be fine. So, I think some of the sweet spots that open up because of that is when you get to that top end of that chart, kind of gives you almost unlimited routing possibilities. The challenge that we have right now is that the multi-city tool that is supposed to be working with Aeroplan is not working. So the stopovers that you're supposed to be able to book for 5,000 additional points are not working. They're just basically pricing as 2 one-ways right now. From what I understand, that it's still a long ways before you can actually get that fixed. So you can still do the same thing that you used to be able to do, which is just piece together flights and call in and do it. However, the wait times have just been extraordinarily long right now because of the launch. And from the calls that I've heard, the folks that are working the phones aren't very familiar with new programs. So it's a bit of a challenge right now to get any sort of adventurous routing set up right now.
Yeah. Matthew, is this still one of those where, what was it? It was 3 p.m. Was it Eastern or something, where it used to be that you had both the English speaking and French speaking agents from both coasts all answering the phones?
Historically, yeah, that was best. You want the French speaking agents in Montreal, the English speaking agents in Vancouver. You call around 3 p.m. Eastern, that's the time. But I mean, I think now the issue is not that all these people are booking, right? It's that they've gone back to this 2-factor authorization, this email thing, and that throws a loop to a lot of people right now. That's
there
what
were
caused
months where I
such a
couldn't get
snarl
into my account, and I just gave up.
Yeah, and so everyone's calling now.
Yeah, I found that if you have a plugin, I've got it right here. It's called Edit This Cookie. I found that if you clear all your cookies, instead of just cycling forever to try to log in, you can log in if you clear all your cookies. But I've seen that as well. I've sat there for a few minutes waiting for a login to pop up.
And the credit cards, Jayce, thumbs up, thumbs down?
I would say that on a whole, most people have been fairly disappointed with the offerings, especially the sign-up bonuses. When you're talking about $10,000 points for the sign-up bonus on the core card, I think it's $39 card that they've got. It's not all that appealing in terms of wanting to sign up. The high-end Aeroplan Reserve card from American Express is pretty good at $75, but it's not that much better. Well, it isn't that much, or it isn't better at all than, say, the Platinum Business that we've got in Canada, which is $75, which converts over 1-to-1 to Aeroplan. When we were at that session I was telling you guys about, we heard the words "expect something amazing," and we were thinking 100,000, first 100,000 point offer here in Canada, but didn't come to fruition. I think the card itself has some interesting features, and I think I talked about that the last call. Really seems to devalue a lot of the benefits coming to actual frequent flyers that earn status with Air Canada. You can just get the Aeroplan Reserve card and get almost all the features that you would receive at, say, around 35 or 50K with Air Canada. So in terms of the card benefits itself, it's pretty good. There's some new features that we haven't seen on cards before in terms of the benefits that it's providing at airport. But in terms of sign-up bonus, I would say that most people have been fairly disappointed.
And is there a U.S. card coming on the way?
To be determined. I don't know. Jayce, do you know?
We asked that question during the session, and I think they never intimated one way or the other, but I would guess that the answer is probably going to be yes. I don't know when it's going to happen. They basically hinted that they're trying to expand with a bigger credit card portfolio, and the next logical step would be to the US. So I just don't have any idea what kind of timing that would look like.
I was a prior card holder when they had a US card. That was a very ho-hum card, and the market has changed a lot. I've always been curious about these non-US airline cards. I think British Airways I would assume would be the most successful of the offerings in the US. There's been a lot that have come and gone, and all different approaches from the Japanese airlines with teddy bear sign-up bonuses. The Air France as a fairly substantial bonus, and Emirates this year is a bit aggressive. Jayce, you mentioned about so many benefits being available on credit cards, and I noticed today with the news that American Airlines is getting rid of all award fees really at this point, and that was the big differentiator. I mean, for Delta, where I'm a flyer, it was push for platinum because those award redeposits are so important. So what's Jayce, you've worked inside an airline loyalty program, and we'll get to your recent commentary on that program. And then Matthew, I mean, you worked at the alliance level. You both lived these. I mean, is elite status just not critical? Is this just crisis management that's going to go away soon? It's more or less permanent.
Well, I mean, for me, like when I worked at WestJet, that the elite program was really the only way you were going to try to sway people from Air Canada over to WestJet. So there was a lot of reverence for the top tier platinum when we first launched it. The idea was that it would never be given away, regardless of who you were. CEO couldn't even give it away. And then we started to see some favors being done internally for people granting platinum. But I mean, effectively, to me, that top tier status, the protection of the exclusivity of things like lounges or front of line service, zone 1 boarding, all those kind of I guess nuanced, hard to quantify in terms of value, are very important, I think, to the people that fly a lot. And when you see some guy with a credit card that paid $600-700 for a credit card is now making you wait in the lobby until more space clears up, I think that probably puts a thorn in your paw, and probably makes you maybe consider moving to another program that has a little more of that exclusivity.
Oh. And Matthew, the AA moves, is this gonna become the standard in the US soon, or
I hope not.
Are they going to keep carving out annoying and complicated exceptions like at Delta?
There'll always be exceptions, but I mean, here's how cheap status has become, right? I mean, I earned it the real way on United. Okay, have top tier status there, but Hyatt, my Hyatt globalist agent, sort of sent me an email and said, "Hey, would you like to be an American Airlines Executive Platinum?" I said, "Yeah, why not?" He said, "Okay, done." And then just 2 weeks ago, I got an unsolicited email from Delta saying, "Hey, let's match your status. You can match up to Diamond." And so I did. And so, although I'm still waiting for confirmation, but I'll be looking at top tier status on Delta, American, and United next year. Still out if whether I'll be able to fly or not, but that seems to me to demonstrate, at least now, that airlines are giving out status a lot easier. They're trying to sort of sweeten and incentivize people to come. And we'll see, because Jayce, like you said, I mean, that's going to be the big pushback. If everybody's an elite, nobody's an elite, right? That's Delta's old mantra. But now they're handing out diamond status with no strings attached, not even a minimum spend requirement.
That's crazy.
I think I have to take 12 flights or six trips or 12 one-ways by March, and I get to keep diamond status for a whole year, right? I can just do LA, San Francisco shuttles, right? $59 each way. I mean, it's
wow. How did they get your information that you were kind of the person they want to go after? Do you know?
I have no idea. I know a lot of readers got it. A lot of readers didn't. I think
my wife had status with Delta in the past, currently has none, and she got the email.
Did she take it?
So I think it was, she got an email. Yeah, I mean, she doesn't have status to match, but so I'm thinking that a lot of Delta general members, or maybe all general members, got it. And yeah, it's interesting. Would they target silver members or gold with? I mean, it's with a fast track or something. Is this all that the airlines are saying, that the road warrior for business travel is extinct?
For now, it is. Yeah, I mean, I think they're desperate to get people back in their seats, however means possible, and they're willing to devalue their status in order to do so. And whether it works or not, I mean, too early to tell, I suppose.
Yeah, and I see a comment for also Southwest is running status matches too. Hotels, mattress running, Hilton, all this stuff. You guys are both airline guys, but are you doing any stuff with hotels, the hotel programs?
Well, I'm lifetime platinum with Marriott, and just requalified for titanium just to get my free night certificate. But yeah, I haven't done a whole lot of traveling, so haven't really had a whole lot of real hotel stays in 21 or 20. So it's I don't know. I think I'm still gold with Hilton as well, and I've got a few other scattered hotel statuses as well.
It seems, Matthew, that the hotels are giving away status, but they're also taking away all of the benefits. And even before this year, I felt like hotel programs, any benefit was irrelevant to me unless it was guaranteed. And I've, because of the shift in my patterns, when we've had these little staycations nearby, the Marriott 4 p.m. checkout for platinums and titaniums, that's massively important to me. And even empty hotels in Hilton are like, oh, you are really making an exception to give you a diamond this 2 p.m. checkout. And
I know.
It's a real thing. My wife and I, that I've got conference calls or she's got conference calls, and we need to be in a room, and hotels aren't upgrading to suites generally. In my travels in the Seattle area, we haven't gone beyond 20 miles of where we live, but suddenly the guaranteed benefits and the late checkout make me feel like the only programs that are relevant to me are Marriott, and I've never been into Hyatt. Maybe one paid stay a year at most for a meeting or something, but now it has me interested just to have that late checkout and that room to be in.
So let me say this about Hyatt. I'm a Hyatt guy and been globalist or what was it before? Diamond for many, many years. And my wife and I just did a staycation at the Andaz in West Hollywood, about 20 minutes away from our house. And we got upgraded to a beautiful suite, 4 p.m. checkout, no problem. Beautiful breakfast even in the morning, ended up running over $100, and, it was all credited back. And so free parking. So Hyatt's still taking care of its elites very nicely. Now, not at all places. Like I put up a review today of the Hyatt Rosemont near Chicago O'Hare. I had to stay there unexpectedly a couple of weeks ago, and they had no food services at all, right? Other than like a cup of coffee or a granola bar downstairs, right? But restaurants were closed, and they're happy to direct you to restaurants down the street, but they said, due to safety protocols and health guidelines, we can't open. And so you're seeing that at many sort of full service hotels where they've cut back a lot on indoor dining and even outdoor dining, where the more limited service properties like the Hyatt Places or the Courtyard Marriotts, at least they have like a breakfast in a bag to go, right? And that's better than nothing.
The granola bar people are doing great business this year.
That's right.
That exact same. There's only one flavor. Nature or something in the green wrapper.
Yeah, that's so true. But Hyatt, for example, I like what they're doing. That this quarter, for the rest of the year, they're counting stays towards status next year. And I'm not going to bank on them. Who knows what's going to happen next year? I guess we'll talk about that. But I'm not going to sort of wait and hope that they're going to extend status another year. I don't think they're going to do that. And so that's actually has incentivized me instead of to be a free agent like I thought I was going to be, because I have status with Hilton through credit cards, through Marriott, through United. I've stuck to Hyatt because I'm sort of building up next year's status already.
So Matthew, was your upgrade complimentary, or did you have to cash in some certificates?
No, it was all automatic. I didn't deal with any agents whatsoever. I checked in through the World of Hyatt app on my phone. It showed that I was upgraded to a suite, and put in my credit card information, got an electronic key, didn't deal with an agent the entire time.
That sounds pretty good.
And it's not the blogger card or anything like that. Or at least I don't think so, right? I never announced that I'm coming, and I ran into the general manager, and he just he said, how is it? And then I said, fine. I didn't mention that I write a blog, and then I put a little something on the blog a week later, and he wrote me a note and said, oh wow, I had no idea you wrote a blog. Really, thanks for the nice story about my hotel. And maybe he's just a very clever man, but I don't think they're checking the list.
I mean, like the welcome ice carving in the room of you, that says "Live and Let's Fly." That didn't tip you off. Well, Jayce, you've got a lot of your audience, Lance or JT, that want to say, okay, so you've turned on WestJet. I'll share the link. Why WestJet loyalty program is an absolute joke, all cap.
Yeah, so I think I've mentioned, or I mentioned in the first paragraph that my day job keeps me pretty busy nowadays, so I haven't had a chance to write any blogs for the last 2 or 3 months. And something happened with the WestJet member exclusive program, which I was part of, that angered me so much that I had to make some time to write the blog. So the WestJet member exclusive program was the rewards program for WestJet. It was that distressed inventory allocation for members, and it was an unpublished chart, but it was a pretty easy chart to figure out. So all flights between Canada and the U.S. Canada or transborder or domestic long haul was 125 WestJet dollars one way plus a little bit of tax. So you could fly transcon in economy on WestJet for $250 or 250 WestJet dollars and about $90 in taxes, which to me was a very good value. And because not a lot of people knew about it, the availability is wide open. And I'll tell you, Matthew and Stefan, you guys would probably appreciate how incredibly simplistic the algorithm was. I found out about the algorithm at WestJet, how they allocated member exclusive fares. I forget the actual fare class, but let's just call it T fare. So T fare, if there were 20 seats available, they would allocate 4 seats to member exclusive, the distressed inventory. And when they made that rule, T fare was the lowest fare. But what happened was they added 2 additional fares underneath T. Let's call those U and V. And what happens is U and V build up into T. So any seats available in U and V count towards T. So in effect, almost every flight that WestJet ever flew, if you were able to book it, say 3 months out, there was almost guaranteed availability in T. And so there was always 4 seats available. And the craziest thing was that as soon as those 4 seats were used up, it would look again and say, hey, does T have more than 20? Yes, release 4 more. And you could just keep releasing seats in member exclusive. So you could effectively, if you knew the rule, you could fly a huge family on member exclusive fare. But so when I was at WestJet, I was tasked with making the program better. And I was looking more towards making it even better for the members. And I went through a whole process of working through our FFPs and trying to find a really good way to make it attractive. And it was more along the lines of a free stopover, 2 free stopovers on a one-way, one on WestJet and one on Partner. So very much like the Alaska program, but allowing an extra stop on the WestJet leg. And to us, with WestJet, the way the economics worked, it didn't actually matter for us, how many stops you took and how long you stopped for. It didn't really matter. We paid just on the distance. And so it would have worked financially, and I left before the program was implemented because I could just see that it wasn't getting any sort of attention. The people at WestJet just really didn't understand loyalty. And so it was an uphill battle trying to get anything set up. So I left, and then probably about 8 months after I left, they pulled the member exclusive program, and they were upgrading it. And they just released it after 4 more months of it being under development. And effectively what's happened is the member exclusive fare is now a discount program to the regular fare. So on an econo flight, which is their standard fare, the member exclusive gets roughly a 5 to 10% discount on that fare.
Wow.
Yeah, it's brutal. It is so bad. So you go from a fixed fare 125 transcon to the same price that you would pay in a regular fare, less 5%. It's an absolute joke. So I've been very angry for the last couple of days.
Yeah, it is those moments where they just, you even saw it on the inside, but when they pull the rug out from under you. And I think if anything, these past months have shown that airline loyalty program staff know exactly where their programs are the worst. And they've, when they really feel they're up against a wall, they can turn that off. So it's not this like, oh, they didn't have any idea what customers actually valued. I'm curious the past few years when airlines were flush; they were never going to lose money again. All of that. There seemed to be that the alliance model was receding, and I feel like travelers seem to value the airline alliance model, even just the basic benefits, the unified check-in. I think there's a lot of things that the everyday traveler maybe doesn't pay attention to, but I felt like people knew to look for the Star Alliance, Star Gold check-in line, and in those things. I'm curious first, Jayce, you were on the receiving end of what I often call Delta's coalition of the willing, which, as in they accepted Delta money in some format. So what was it like to be on the receiving end of a joint venture, non-alliance type relationship?
Well, I never worked directly on that particular JV, but the person that was in charge of it sat next to me, so I heard a lot of stories. Delta is kind of that they're that airline that knows they're a big airline, and they're willing to flex on it. So there was a lot of what I would deem a little bit of bullying in terms of our program's so much bigger than yours. You should accept what we are proposing here for things like lounge access or baggage allowances, things like that, and quite effectively as well. They pushed their small business program on us as well, and wanted us to join up into that program. I think for the most part they got their way. Because they're so big and they open up so many additional flyers to WestJet, the traction of having Delta as a JV was much more beneficial for us than it was probably for them. And so we ended up taking, from my perspective, a bit of a back seat on the things that they requested and that we didn't quite agree with initially.
Yeah, in that sense, I would feel like as a Delta flyer, I'd be the bully coming in and getting what I expect. But the times I've flown them, going back when they turned up in t-shirts and jeans at a flight out of LaGuardia that I wasn't expecting, and up until last year, some flights. I really could. It was very hard to figure out, even as an experienced Diamond flyer, what benefits I was going to get, and it was surprising that advanced seat assignments were certainly not exit rows were not part of it. Whereas, say for I think Virgin Australia, Virgin Atlantic, it was never really published, but you could pretty much guarantee some delight, and there wasn't surprise and delight at all with this arrangement.
No, in the initial outset of the JV, there was no reciprocal agreement at all. So they just never gave any sort of benefit to Delta, and vice versa. WestJet status members never got anything on Delta. So I think now that the JV is finalized and they've got that agreement in place, I think you'll see more of the real benefits that the Delta members should get on WestJet.
Matthew, will there be effectively an airline of the Americas with WestJet, Delta, and of North America with Aeromexico? Is that going to get unified in any serious sense, or still very fragmented?
What?
You're frozen just for a moment there. We'll see if he's back. Oop. Matthew, if you're there, your image is frozen, so you may have to rejoin for a moment while we're getting him back. Jayce, was there ever any talk of extending or tying that into the Aeromexico relationship Delta has?
Yeah, so that was on our list of additional FFPs that we were going to onboard after Delta JV was kind of completed, and so there was a big pause on additional FFP partners because they wanted to make sure that the WestJet program was set up properly, including the launch of the platinum level, and the 787 launch took a lot of the energy and attention of everybody at WestJet to get underway. So launching new FFPs was kind of put on pause, but Aeromexico was definitely on the slate for WestJet.
Excellent. And I was going to bring in Matthew on Star Alliance, but it looks like in the comments there's an inside joke somewhere in here about how many Star Alliance airlines there are.
Yeah, so Anshul Singh has like one story he can tell about how he's smarter than I am. And so he keeps bringing it up. So Anshul, myself, and a few other bloggers, like I mentioned, went to the Air Canada launch event for bloggers, or just kind of familiarization event, and they had a prize at the end, and they didn't tell us what it was, but they gave us a bunch of a quiz full of Air Canada questions, and one of them was, and I think it was the deciding factor of how many alliances are there in the Star Alliance, and I put down 27, and he had the right number at 26. And shockingly, when he won, they announced that the grand prize was super elite status and 100,000 Aeroplan miles, which was way more generous than I ever thought it would be. So Anshul has that on me, and but I'm still happy that I have some knowledge of Star Alliance. Maybe not as much as Anshul, though.
I wonder if they're extending it for him, or it becomes the miles will stick around.
I hope it goes away December 31st.
Let's see. How many of the Star Alliance airlines have you flown? I haven't totaled mine up too recently.
I don't know. I'd have to go back and look. A decent amount.
Matthew, how many Star Alliance airlines are there, and how many have you flown?
So sorry about the connection issue. I've flown 20. There's 26 in total. I've flown 24 of them. Shenzhen and Copa are my last two.
Oh, Copa should be easy enough.
It should. I'm
Really?
waiting for the 737 Maxes to get back in line. Those are supposed to have flat beds, so we'll see.
I guess there's not too many people saying I'm holding off till I can get on the Max. So tell us your take on the Max.
My take on the Max, I mean, it's tough, right? I mean, I guess I'm more of a risk taker than most, and I'd be happy to board it tomorrow on Ethiopian, on Lion Air, on any U.S. airline. I trust that I have to trust the system, right? I can't independently verify whether the FAA and Boeing and European authorities have really looked in to make sure that this problem has been resolved. But I'm going to trust that if these aircraft are recertified to fly, that they're safe to fly, and that carriers know to sort of retrain their pilots, additional sim training, and what can I say? I'm ready to step on board.
And if it wasn't Copa recliner class versus lie flat, if they both had lie flat, you would be indifferent as well?
I would be, yeah.
And which of the airline products? I was not aware that Copa was getting lie flat. I have not been good at keeping up with what's new and interesting out there. What is new and interesting in terms of airline products these days?
Well, everything's sort of come
You can
to a
go back
pause
the past
now.
year or two.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Virgin Atlantic, everybody thinks Virgin Atlantic is such a sexy airline. And, they have nice glittery aircraft and nice lounges and swanky bars on board. And what I thought was one of the worst business class seats in the industry, these herringbone coffin-like seats, right, where you can't look out the window, and they were difficult to adjust and not at all comfortable for sleeping, at least in my experience. And they've introduced a new A350-1000 with the new reverse herringbone business class seat. It looks great. I can't wait to try it. Ben had a post this week, which is so interesting. Ethiopian is such a growing and flourishing airline even now, and they already have several different business class seats. Two main ones, but they have a couple older aircraft, and they've introduced two new business class seats this week. One on their A350, one on their new Dreamliners, and both. I mean, they're not proprietary. We've seen them in other places, but I enjoy flying Ethiopian. I look forward to trying that again. British Airways has this new club suite that they've introduced on the A350, and the new 777 still taking delivery of. I've flown it. It's very nice. That's all.
Have you flown the new EVA 787?
I have not.
No?
Actually, I have a ticket that I was actually going to travel during the pandemic in May, and I had to cancel it. I haven't rebooked it yet, but I look forward to trying that.
And here I've been totaling up. It looks like I'm even with you. I'm only missing 2 Star Alliance airlines too. So
Which two are you
you were
missing?
the star. I am missing Croatia Airlines, and very shameful for my name, I am missing LOT Polish Airlines.
Okay.
So I need to scoop those up. And SkyTeam, I think, did I complete the set? I cannot remember if years ago when I was a student if I actually flew Xiamen Airlines, and I don't have any proof. I think I did one time, but that would be missing. And then Aerolíneas I have not flown.
You're not missing much, trust me.
Yeah. Well, the Condor, what is it? The Condor fax machine class, or whatever. But everybody else I've gotten, yes, I'm 1 point something shy in that. And yeah, some of my memories of these. I mean, I love the uniforms of MEA. Taram is one of those ATR airlines where on the seat map, all the front rows are open. I grab that first row. I feel so cool, and then realize they're flying ATRs, and I've got the worst seat on the plane. So I'll be last off. So there's questions about the Aeroplan rewards depreciation. I think we covered that in the beginning, but Angel's got an interesting Star Alliance question. What airlines fly the Star Alliance, or why do airlines fly the Star Alliance livery?
Go ahead, Matt. You probably know the answer. I think I know the answer, but go ahead.
It's actually a requirement. I can say that. But Singapore was the holdout. For years, Singapore was like, no, you're not going to deface one of our aircraft with a Star Alliance livery. And finally they gave in. And it's just, it's marketing.
Yeah, it's just a way to promote the alliance, right?
So I prefaced all these by saying I like the alliances. I feel like travelers maybe aren't as vocal about liking them, but generally have liked the experiences, especially frequent flyers. And it seems like airlines hate them and continue to devalue benefits to what degree they can. Mileage earning has gotten atrocious in so many of the programs. I mean, what you worked for Star Alliance, Matthew, in a very different travel era, but what is the future? Is there hope for those of us that around the world? Me bouncing around Africa and Ethiopia and South Africa and seeing that Star Gold check in, just incredible. And I don't want to see it going away.
I do think there's a future for Star Alliance, and which is a very different question than whether it's going to pay to earn Star Alliance Gold status, because it's certainly more difficult and less lucrative than it was. But that everything you mentioned, right? The preferred check-in, the preferred security lines, the extra baggage limit, the lounges, right? That's all huge, and people do value that. And Star Alliance, though, has morphed into, there's still initiatives, right? They're working on a common platform for FFP redemption. They're trying to get every carrier online, because some carriers it's incredibly burdensome to try to call in and to try to book partner awards. And they're trying to automate that. They're trying to automate seat assignments. So it doesn't matter with which carrier you're ticketed on. If you have a Star Alliance flight, you can easily assign seats online or on the app. And I think those are very good things. But very recently, Star Alliance has moved into the sort of the politicking game with governments. I think Star Alliance correctly sees that one path forward to reopening travel, or at least travel corridors, is through testing. And so Star Alliance is based in Frankfurt, Germany, and in concert with Lufthansa, they've worked closely with German officials on establishing testing protocols to try to open up more doors to travelers. And they've expanded that effort, and now they're working on it in other places too. They're working on setting up a corridor between London and New York, for example, which would be most instrumental. That was United's most profitable, or one of the most profitable routes. And they're doing this around the world, trying to educate and trying to create environments in which testing can be rapid and accurate in hopes of putting people back on airplanes.
And I think we heard from Jayce, he's not been traveling much. It's, I think, a little bit of necessary work travel. Matthew, you've stepped out a little bit more. Tell us quickly your calculations, what travels you've been doing, what travels you plan to do in the next couple months.
Yeah, I mean, I stayed home for several months, but then I started traveling. I have two wonderful, beautiful, darling, loud children at home, and we're all at home, and sometimes being productive is extremely difficult. And so, my darling wife gave me permission to do a couple trips to New York. I called them study days, right? Where get on the plane in the morning, I fly to New York, walk down the concourse, and I board the flight right back to Los Angeles. Perhaps a bit wasteful, but the upgrades clear easily because the planes are not full right now, and United still feeds you on those transcontinental routes, and so it was like incredibly productive days. And I find that much easier to be productive on an airplane than say like had I booked a hotel room down the street or something like that. I did a trip to Germany about a week and a half ago. Lufthansa is pulling out all its first class product from North America for the winter season. So until at least late March, early April. And one of my favorite Lufthansa flight attendants was operating the last 747 flight out of LA, which was on Halloween, actually, 31st of October. And so, he messaged me, he said, "Hey, I'm on this flight, would love to see you on board." And I thought, oh, sure, why not? And so booked that. It was a lovely flight. Lufthansa, like British Airways, you fly British Airways first class and they give you a boxed lunch, with a sandwich and a salad. And Turkish Airlines in business, right? Once known for the best catering in the industry, is cut back, and what they give you is just atrocious. Where Lufthansa,
we got Michael Traeger in the audience, and before we get into politics, we don't want to blow things up with talking about that British Airways sandwich, like relish or whatever pickle sandwich. It was Matthew. I feel like you'll do the holding champagne points travel thing, but also on the way to Afghanistan. And your post tipped me off years ago of how to get a Saudi Arabia visa. So you're on the march to every country in the world. In a few years, is it going to be a situation like borders are more or less open and you might need something like the yellow fever vaccination, or are we looking at years and years of much more complicated borders?
I guess the safe answer is too early to tell, but I'm hopeful. Actually, I'm optimistic that we will move to a more open system with vaccination. And just like, you need your yellow fever vaccination for so many countries. When you're traveling in Africa, you're going to need this COVID vaccination. And I trust this vaccination will be effective. I was encouraged to hear Pfizer reported such positive success in their test cases, and we'll be watching closely, right? I think that's going to be key. But
are digital passports on the way?
I don't know about digital passports, but immunity passports, yeah. I mean, maybe there'll be some universally recognized.
I was just reading a column about that maybe it's the time to modernize this very antiquated piece of paper.
It is so antiquated, but Germans love their stamps. I mean, I don't think it's going anywhere.
And in some sense it'd be it's a little disappointing when you enter countries that don't stamp anymore. It's like, can I please get one? Jayce, transborder travel. I am a year ago with Nexus, I would be within about just under 1 hour 20 minutes away from top Shanghainese in Vancouver. Now I am indefinitely away from it. What's the outlook?
Well, so I'm not sure what the rule is for Americans coming to Canada, but I believe the air border is still open. The land border is definitely closed, and I don't see that changing anytime soon, given the widely disparate infection rates between Canadians and Americans. So I just don't see that changing anytime soon. But yeah, I'm hopeful with the new administration that science will win out in the end, and I hope that the infection rate goes down significantly in the U.S. I know that here in Canada, we've had some spikes. Looking at a potential second wave, it's likely a second wave, but we're concerned about our province having 1,000 cases a day, and you guys have 1,000 deaths a day. So it's widely different from what you're dealing with in the U.S. So I don't see anything changing until likely a vaccine is in place. And it's probably going to be a good year away. Interestingly, I've got something booked to Hawaii for the beginning of December, and we're not sure if it's going to happen or not. With Hawaii's testing, they've allowed test results coming out of the U.S. and now Japanese testing centers. Canadian testing centers, the results are not being accepted right now. But I just got off the phone with Tourism Hawaii today. They tell me that Canada's next on the list, but they don't have a timeline. But what we've got here in Calgary is a test set up for entry back into Canada from any international flight. It's running for half a year, and basically once you get off the flight, you have the option to take a voluntary test. As soon as you take the test, you go home and you quarantine, and the results will be available within 48 hours. If you're negative, then you're free to go. And so I think that the only way that trans-border flights are going to be able to work, or travel is going to be able to work, is if there is testing on both ends. And that's kind of why we're considering Hawaii, is that unique situation where people going there have to be tested, and on the way back, we get the ability to be tested. So that's the only reason we feel safe. But going to mainland America, there's no way that we would risk that right now as Canadian.
Mm-hmm. And continuing on into politics, so Matthew, you worked in the White House for a prior administration, and of the current U.S. administration, there's been a number of cabinet areas that have been very, very public, and we'll say very loud in terms of the personalities leading them. That's not the case for the Department of Transportation, which is a more familiar face to Washington. I wonder if you could bring us up to speed of what of this sprawling Department of Transportation, what has been achieved or attempted in the past 4 years, and what's a bit of an outlook for the next 4 years from a regulatory perspective.
Well, I must admit, Republicans in Congress tried to roll back the all-in pricing requirement,
Mm-hmm.
which is, I think, one of my favorite things about travel. I don't know if you remember the years when, you would be shown a deceptively low fare and then only to click through and see all the taxes and fees added. And, even fuel surcharges weren't required. And so, I was very happy to see that sort of died. But, there's not much to report, right? Lately they've been in the process of granting exceptions to carriers who wanted to suspend service to certain cities, even though they were accepting CARES Act funding. There's the longer term FAA modernization project, airspace, that sort of thing. We see public-private partnerships modernizing airports in a beautiful way, like the new LaGuardia Airport, for example. And I don't know. There's been no tremendous damage as far as I can see the last 4 years. And I expect actually a continuance of the status quo in the new administration.
In your background, when you make that comment, damage, you're not a flaming liberal by background, so you did work in the Republican administrations.
I worked for George W. Bush, yes, and so.
And tell us that. What is that like? I've heard. The White House. It's whenever I go to Washington D.C., I feel like there's just something magical about people who jog every morning is along the mall, and I'm sure it gets a little bit the same for anybody that's there a long time. And I've heard it's very cramped quarters and executive office buildings in the White House, but it's still got to be just goosebumps to step in there and whatever administration you're in that work. So tell us about your time.
It was. I worked in the communications office, press office. I worked under first Tony Snow and then Dana Perino. And my office, the Office of Media Affairs, was assigned more regional media. And so the area I was assigned was West Coast and New England regional media. And I would be tracking that closely, sometimes dealing with reporters. And so, I mean, obviously this was towards the end of the Bush administration. And so this was after Katrina. This was just before the collapse, but, mounting anger over the Iraq war. And so, you can imagine West Coast, New England to most liberal parts of the US, right? It wasn't very friendly. But it was a great experience just to come in there every day to work. It was an interesting team. It left me jaded. And, I had intended to sort of sacrifice my whole career and, do this sort of civil service or political service. And I walked away, much less enthusiastic about politics, because there were a lot of true believers in there where sometimes when you're presented with facts, you need to change your positions. You need to modify them, right? And your guy is not always right. He may be right most of the time, but not always. And what I noticed was sort of this infallibility, which I think it exists on both sides, right? You saw that in the Obama administration. You certainly see that in the Trump administration. And that's not healthy for democracy or for good governance.
Yeah, this idea that what makes a good judge is the idea that for their entire life they will be ideologically inflexible, have no intellectual evolution, remain rigidly wedded to certain political ideas. It sounds like exactly what I don't want in a judge. I mean, you want some intellectual humility and willingness to adapt and encounter new new understandings.
At least it's only a lifetime appointment, so.
You've got all the restaurants I love over there, and you get to make these smug jokes about it. But I've invited it, so it's I don't know. I mean, how do we get some sense of public service back? I mean, the Matthew Klint of that's 22 years old right now. How do we get them interested in public service again?
I mean, it all starts in the space around us, right? This small community, this town, the city that you live in, right? You start by just helping others, and opportunities come when you set out to serve. And it doesn't have to be part of a grand and masterful plan, right? You just every day, day in and day out, you help those around you in need, and it leads to more and more opportunities. And when we all do that together, a better country results.
Oh, fantastic. That's beautifully said, and that's even better than the news of United going back to JFK today.
Although I'm very excited about that. High density 767, 46 business class seats. It's going to be an easy upgrade. JFK is such a better airport than Newark, I think, and I'll finally get to try the TWA hotel.
Fantastic. We'll close with my own selfish scenario questions. So I'm based in Seattle. Will both of you, yes, no, will Seattle, Bangalore start flying in the next, we'll say, year or two?
I'm iffy. Let's just say 40-60 no. But I do think the United San Francisco Bangalore is going to start for sure.
I don't care about that.
I know you don't care, but I mean, that's important in whether American does it, right?
Yeah.
And maybe American will still do it anyway, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know enough about the route, but I trust in Matthew's judgment. So,
do you want to be on the inaugural flight, Stefan?
No, I just want to get to India like 10 hours faster than any other way, and
it's the overnight
connections.
Delhi, right?
Yeah, I mean connections. I mean, there's the flight times out of South and Central Asia are so often penalized to be these 4 a.m. departures in Korean Air and these things. So that, that would just make it so much more accessible. That's almost like an East Asia trip then from the West Coast. Okay, Starlux Airlines. They just announced a huge number of potential routes, 4 years of status. Is it going to fly? Is it going to reach all these North American destinations? How many? Matthew first, then Jayce.
I think they will serve North America. As for which routes, remains to be seen.
I'm gonna have to plead ignorance again. Don't know.
And how about somebody like Turkish? When they announce a Vancouver route, I like it, except I'd rather have also Seattle. So when is Turkish, who else is coming? I'm just curious about the West Coast. I lived on the East Coast, of course, for a number of years, and pretty much any international airline going either direction is available. And when you're on the West Coast, from Vancouver down to San Diego, it struck me as fewer international airlines and routes than I would have expected, just broadly across the board. So more airlines, more routes for the West Coast. Yes or no?
I don't know. Yeah, eventually, but you haven't seen it for such a long time, so I don't know. I was very surprised that Turkish was flying out of Vancouver. Very excited about that possibility, because anytime we went over to Istanbul, we'd have to connect in Eastern Canada. So for us, it's much more convenient to take a 1 hour flight to Vancouver and then a direct over to Istanbul. But I can't for the life of me remember the last time something like that has happened.
Jayce, are you hearing at all when the Signature Suites might reopen? Those
no, I
haven't.
I haven't. So Ricky from Prince of Travel and I we went to the media event there, and I think the day after they closed the lounge. So I don't think anybody's been in that lounge since they had the media event. So it's a beautiful lounge and great food, but I haven't heard any rumors about when it's going to reopen.
And Matthew, the Signature Lounge is what, for those that haven't heard?
The Signature Lounge is Air Canada's premium lounge. They have one in Toronto, Pearson. They have one in Vancouver. It's only for paid business class passengers, but I think in terms of North American lounges, they are the best. Polaris lounges from United are very good. The American flagship lounges are good as well, but I think the Air Canada Signature Suites are just a step above.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
I am curious.
Definitely an air of exclusivity in that lounge that you don't get at a lot of North American lounges, for sure. It's beautiful. And like I said, the food's been fantastic. Very similar to the Amex lounge with the dedicated bartender making beautiful drinks. But it's quite nice. And when we were at the media event, they talked about the likelihood of them holding pretty firm on that idea of only paid business class being able to access that lounge. So it's going to stay pretty exclusive, and I think it's a lot to do with the size of the space. It's not very big, and it's a lounge within a lounge in YVR. So I can't imagine that they're going to change that stance anytime soon, because I think there might be capacity for maybe 40 people or something like that in there, and a decent amount of business class flights coming out of Vancouver. So it should stay pretty exclusive.
Excellent. And I am not a lounge expert, but I have great memories of the Air Canada lounge in Frankfurt. So I can certainly attest that they know how to put together a great lounge. And someday I would like to
if you like the Air Canada lounge in Frankfurt, you will love the Signature Suite. It's like on a whole nother level. It's just great. It's like,
because Frankfurt, it's like I was going to say that any traveler that you can tip them off, you don't need to be sitting in a massive Lufthansa lounge having lukewarm wieners with 1,000 other people. You can walk upstairs to this gorgeous blown glass setting in the Air Canada lounge.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. You've inspired us for public service, hope in the new Aeroplan, and so much more, just not the Westjet program. So.
Stay away.
Thank you, Jayce. Thank you, Matthew. Have a good night, everyone.
Pleasure. Good night.
Take care.